It is recording. Yay! Hi, everybody.
No.
Welcome to Community Mediation Maryland, inclusive listening in service for mediators. I am going to go in to where all of the participants are, and I'm going to mute everybody. But when you have something to say, you can unmute yourself, but I'm just muting it right now so that there aren't any background noises so everybody can hear pretty clearly. Tracy is also in the chat, I think, and she will be, let me see. Yeah. Okay, so we also scheduled a meeting for executive directors of community mediation centers. And so there are some people that are over there. We're trying to figure out making sure we don't schedule things at the same time, and we failed at that miserably today. So so that's a big reason why we're recording it too, to make sure that people who weren't able to come right now can get this information and this practice later on. So the skill that we're going to be talking about today is inclusive listening. And inclusive listening is the way in the inclusive model of mediation that we teach mediators to listen without judgment. How do you listen to people in a way that is all about what they are expressing and helps your brain as you're listening to remove any of your opinions, any of your judgments, and that sort of thing. So a lot of times mediators like to focus on, well, what do I say to participants? And it's really important to remember that what you say is guided by how you were listening and how you were thinking while people were talking in the first place. And so today we're not going to really talk a lot about how you would reflect back what you would say to people, but instead we'll just be focusing on how you listen to people in the first place. And we have another in-service that's coming where we'll be talking about how you take what you heard and then reflect it back to participants so that they feel heard and understood. So I am going to right now I'm gonna load a document in here, which is the inclusive listening document. Let me find it 1 second. This is when you realize how many things you've been okay, here we go. Is this the right one? Let's see if this is the right one. Yay! Oh no, this is not. This is throughout the mediation process. Hold on, that's the wrong one. Almost. Boom, here we go. Okay, so the document that is on your screen right now is the inclusive listening handout. And when we are all done, you are free to email me to get this handout at mediationdiva@gmail.com, and I will repeat that later in the when we're about to end the training. So inclusive listening is the process of listening to a positional statement and then breaking it into these 3 parts that you're listening for. Feelings that people are expressing, topics that people are talking about, and also their values or what is important to them. And hearing people in this way is going to help you to work on understanding what they're saying without your judgments also in there. So the handout first talks about what positional statements are. So positional statements are really like, what are people saying at the mediation table from their standpoint? The position is from where they sit in a situation. Here's what is going on from their perspective. And so often positional statements are filled with insults or threats or maybe solutions about what people should do, angry statements about things that have happened in the past, blame about things that have been going on. Sometimes positional statements are also defensive affirmations, like I'm a good mother, kinds of things. So then there are examples of positional statements here. She's a slob. Her crap is all over the place. I'm not picking up after her anymore. Another one, he's a liar. He never tells me what's going on with my son, and I'll take him to court if I have to. He'll never see that kid again if he doesn't change. If he doesn't turn down that music, I'm going to kill him. If you could follow directions, then we wouldn't have these problems, would we? I was fired because I'm a woman standing up for my rights, period. Right? So these are the kinds of things that people, right, they're speaking from where they sit in a conflict or in a hard conversation. This is what things look like to them. And so what's important about inclusive listening is we want to listen to these positional statements in a way that, taking brain science into consideration, how do we listen in a way that helps get people out of these defensive stances, out of their position, and really thinking about, well, how would I problem solve? If this is my position, if this is what's going on for me, what would resolution look like? And in our brains, we're not able to think about problem solving while we are in a defensive state, because in a defensive state, we are in fight, flight, or freeze mode. And so in order to think about, well, how do I problem solve? What would the solutions look like? That comes from a place of, once I feel understood, then that helps me to de-escalate. And in a more de-escalated place, our brains are more able to then think about what solutions would actually look like, or what it is we really want. And beyond just being right in the conflict, right? But like, what do we really want? How do we want the conflict to be resolved? And so that's the reason why we're not just listening to the insults and angry statements that people are making. We are translating the things they're saying in their conflict into these three pieces of what emotions are they expressing, what things are they talking about, which we call topics, and then what's important to them, their goals, their needs, their values. So this first piece about feelings says that feelings are emotion words reflecting the degree of intensity that people express. So as you're listening for feelings, you want to make sure that you're listening for feelings that people are expressing, not your opinion of what their feelings must be. And so this handout gives an example. But first I want to point out that one challenge of listening for feelings is that people rarely sit at the mediation table and like talk in feeling language, right? So they don't generally go, I am devastated and upset and I feel betrayed and I'm mostly just flabbergasted about all of this, right? Like that's not generally how people talk. However, they do say things that equal feelings and feeling language, right? So one way that I think about it is that as a mediator, when I'm listening for feelings, I'm trying to do what I call a clean translation. So if I think I heard somebody express a particular feeling, I should be able to connect the feeling that I'm coming up with something that they said, but it should be a clean translation from what they said. So for example, when somebody if I'm doing a training right now and somebody is translating everything I'm saying into Spanish, for example, or sign language, there may be things that I'm saying that they're thinking, well, wait a minute, there's not a sign exactly for that word, or there's not a word in Spanish exactly for this word that she just said. And so it's up to the translator to make sure that they don't just say, oh, well, she basically said this, and then translate it into what they basically got out of what I said. Their job is to make sure that they cleanly go, okay, well, there's not an exact word for that in Spanish or in sign, but these 3 words would equal that thing that she just now said, right? And so that would be like a clean translation, so that what I'm saying doesn't, right, quote unquote, get lost in translation. And so the same thing is happening with mediators as we're listening for feeling words. And so there shouldn't be any of your analysis or opinion between what the person said and the feeling word that you land at. And also I want to point out one way, and so in that for each person at the mediation table in your note topics. So while somebody is talking, for example, if they say, I can't believe I can't believe you did that, right? So if somebody says, I can't believe, that would equal shocked. Now, in your mind, you might also think, oh, they're hurt or they're upset. We don't know that they're hurt or upset, but a clean translation from I can't believe, you would put shocked and surprised, words like that in your notes. And so that's what we mean by a clean translation. So this example that it gives on the handout gives us an example of how to make sure you're not putting your opinion in what somebody is feeling. So the example says, I'm sick and tired of her wearing clothes that she knows will attract all the attention from the men. I try to keep clients from coming to our office and hopes they don't see the way that she dresses. I have a nice body too, but you don't see me coming to work dressed that way. And so this says to avoid your opinion of what the speaker is feeling, like jealous and envious, and to listen for feelings that are expressed by the speaker, like fed up or embarrassed. And then it gives examples of feelings here. And I'm also going to make sure that you have a feelings cheat sheet that you can use. In a minute, I'm going to put the feelings and values. Actually, I'll put this inclusive listening cheat sheet and handout in there as well, so that you can be working from these documents during the training, and then you'll have them afterwards as well. And so first, I'm going to ask you all, so you can use the chat box, and I'm going to ask you all, what are some things that this person just said that might make you think they feel jealous or fed up? Like, what kind of things were they saying? So I'm going to unmute you.
Yeah, no, I did. I got your voice message.
Oh, no, I lied.
No problem.
I don't know what day I did that. Okay.
Yeah, well, so I talked.
Okay, sorry, I muted everybody again because somebody is having a whole nother conversation in the background. So if everyone could do me a favor and mute your phones if you're having a conversation in the background, so that I can unmute everybody and people can give answers. Okay. So somebody says she has a nice body too. Okay, good. So this is Peter Lee. So Peter Lee, I'm gonna ask you, can you tell us what about, unmute yourself and tell us what about she has a nice body too makes you think that this person might feel jealous?
Just because she made it a point to point that out, to say that I have a nice body too, but I'm not dressing like that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, good. So there's something even in the way that we've been socialized that says to us, when somebody's even bringing up about somebody else's body, that it might mean they wish they had that same kind of body. Right. Anybody else wanna Tell us what else you think the person said that might make you think they feel jealous. Yes, Michelle, we want you to answer. Yes, I can reread the vent, absolutely. Okay, so it says, I'm sick and tired of her wearing clothes that she knows will attract all the attention from the men. I try to keep clients from coming to our office in hopes that they don't see the way she dresses. I have a nice body too, but you don't see me coming to work dressed that way. Okay, so all the attention. So Lee, can you say more about why? So Darby and Lee are both saying that. So can you all tell us a little bit more about what you think all the men's attention? What about that makes you think that this person might be jealous, might feel jealous?
Because she wants attention too.
Okay. So it sounds like she wants attention too. From her saying that that this person is trying to get all the attention from the men, it makes you think, oh, she must want some attention too. Okay, good.
Yes. Erica.
Yes.
So I think whenever a person uses the word all, that heightens the effect.
Okay. So the all makes it sound like she must believe there's no attention left for her because this person is getting all the attention from the men, so there's none left over that she might be able to get. Okay, good. All right, so now this handout is saying that if we were listening to this person and we put in our notes that this person felt jealous, that would be our opinion of how this person felt, right? And so going back to thinking about a clean translation, right? Well, let me just start here. If you were to say, as a mediator, if you were to say to this person, I think it sounds like you're saying you feel jealous of your coworker. What kind of response do you think you would get from this person if you did that reflection? So it sounds like you feel jealous of your coworker. Is that right? So Michelle
Person's gonna feel
said,
jealous and probably give you a response that's pushing back towards that.
that's exactly right, right? So we got people saying people will feel pissed and shut down. They will feel defensive. They will punch the mediator in the face, right? So all of these are not that the person would experience feeling heard and understood by the mediator, right? And that's because they didn't actually express that they felt jealous. What they said did not give us a clean translation to jealous. So in order for us to get a clean translation, we would have needed to hear them say something like, oh my goodness, it's not right that she just looks so much better. Like, I mean, look at her boobs. They just sit up so nicely and all perky, and mine just hang down to my navel like forearms. And, you know, it's not fair that she's getting all the attention and nobody is looking at me, right? If they said that, that would be a clean translation to jealous, right? Now, this handout is saying, look, listen for feelings that are expressed by the speaker. So these feelings, the feelings that come up next, fed up, embarrassed, and proud, these should be emotions that come directly from something that the person said. So for people who are on the phone and not able to look at the document, I'm gonna read the vent again so that everybody has access to it. And then I want you to either type in the chat or say out loud what things equal these feelings. So the vent is, I'm sick and tired of her wearing clothes that she knows will attract all the attention from the men. I try to keep clients from coming to our office in hopes that they don't see the way she dresses. I have a nice body too, but you don't see me coming to work dressed that way. Now this says that the person is expressing they feel fed up. What is it that they said that equals fed up? Very good. Sick and tired for the win, right? So everybody, right, you can see sick and tired equals fed up. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to add any analysis to it. That's a clean translation. What about embarrassed? What does the person say that would equal embarrassed? Very good. I try to keep people from coming to the office, right? Good. Good. Very nice. And what about proud? What was it that she said that equals proud? I have a nice body too. Very good, right? So isn't that amazing that one of the things that we heard and said, oh, that means she's jealous, right? So when we were thinking, listening with our regular brains, I have a nice body too sounded like she was jealous. But when we remove our opinions from it and we go, but just what does that equal? I have a nice body equals words like she feels proud of her body, maybe even confident about her body, maybe even sure. So if you were listening to her and you heard I have a nice body too, and you put words for her feeling notes, if you put words like confident, proud, and sure, then that would be, those would be a clean translation to her feelings. So Lee, you're saying really? So can you unmute yourself and say more about what your question is?
Actually, that was me who did that, not Lee, because I was just commenting on what he typed in there earlier, which may have been inadvertent.
Oh, okay. All right, never mind then. Thank you. Okay, so right now I am going to I'm gonna go get the inclusive listening handout. So that you all have it. And also I'm gonna put the feelings cheat sheet in there. All right. All right, so in the chat, this is the inclusive listening handout. This technology is just amazing to me. It's a Google document that I just put in there. Okay, and so in order to listen for feelings, you probably right now in your regular vocabulary, you know, we don't go around using a lot of feeling words ourselves a lot of times in our daily conversations. And so here's a feelings cheat sheet so that when you're listening, you can use this to have a larger variety of feeling words to pull from. And so I'm gonna put this link in here as well. So here's the feelings cheat sheet. And the other thing that makes this cheat sheet really important when you take a look at it is you're listening for feeling words that capture the intensity of what people are expressing. And so, so I think a lot of times mediators are tempted to, when they are listening, to try to like soften the conversation, you know, so the conversation might feel really escalated because of the way that people are expressing themselves, and mediators might have a temptation to try to like tone down the conversation themselves. And so keeping in mind that it's not the mediator's job to like push people to calm down. Like we all know that if people are upset and somebody comes along and says, hey, you should calm down, that generally does not go well. It doesn't people go, you calm down. Would you calm down if blah, 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 right? And so in that same vein, it's important that we're working on understanding the level of intensity and making sure people feel heard around whatever intensity their feelings, wherever the intensity of their feelings are, that we're working on understanding that, not trying to make them calm down, because that said, in us trying to make them calm down, that sends a judgment that maybe they shouldn't be feeling the way that they're feeling. And that's all of those things are just not within our job and in our role as mediators. So instead, what we're doing is we're honoring the intensity that people are bringing. And so you can see on the cheat sheet, for example, there aren't just feeling words, but there are also the different levels of intensity of that feeling. And so, for example, under angry, you'll see words like disgusted and outraged, because those are in the angry genre of feelings, but those words, angry, disgusted, and outraged, are not all exactly the same thing, right? So any questions about feelings, listening for feelings, before we move on to listening for topics? All right, so this question is, what's a good way to reflect when after an outburst someone says, oh, I was too loud? Okay. So one thing that we're doing right now in this training is we're not focusing on what you would say, we're focusing on what you would hear. So I'm going to answer your question based on what you could put in your notes. So if someone is asking, were they too loud? I might ask them, so I'm not sure that I'm hearing like a clear feeling, value, or topic out of, was I too loud? So I might be hearing that they feel curious about how loud they were at the table. They're looking for our input about how loud they're speaking. So input might be a value. So those are the things that I will put in my notes. I wouldn't necessarily jump straight to worry. So somebody's asking the question, would worry be a feeling? Oh, I was too loud. I don't know that the person is worried. I do know that they're curious about it and like they're asking about it, but I don't know that. So it would be an assumption that because they're asking, it means that they're worried, right? And so right now, I just know that they're curious and they're looking for input about how loud they were. Any other questions about listening for feelings before we move on to topics in the handout? Okay, so I'm gonna move on to the topics part of the handout. And so this says that topics are generally one-word tangible items. Topics should be framed using non-judgmental language, which does not take either person's side. So we're listening for concrete topics because it helps you to avoid your judgment, because you'll be hearing in a way that removes the blame and focuses on things people may want to make plans about. So topics are the things people are saying, I don't like the way this thing is going, or they're saying, I have conflict about this thing, I disagree with you about this thing. Topics might also be the things that people are saying, well, we don't have conflict about it yet, but I think we should make a plan about it. Because it's something so that we don't have conflict about it later. So this is just my commercial real quick about remembering that when you're talking to people about mediation services, we're not just saying that mediation is for a conflict. A lot of times people hear the word conflict and they go, oh, yeah, my situation is not that bad yet, so I guess I don't need mediation, right? And so we're remembering that mediation is for conflicts, and it is for hard conversations, and it is for just making plans about something that's coming. You can use the mediation process to make plans about things, even if there's not a particular conflict that anybody's having right now. Okay, so the example here is the speaker is saying, you harass me constantly. Don't you have anyone else to talk to? Every time I turn around, you are posting to my Facebook page, emailing me, or stopping me in the hallway for mindless chit chat. Then when I check my voicemail, you filled half my inbox with messages. Leave me alone and get a life. Okay, so that's the vent. And now we're moving to the next page of the handout, which says, so in that particular event, you're going to avoid your idea of the problem based in the speaker's blame language. So if you were going to say, oh, the problem here, you would name it harassment. So we're not thinking about topics that people are talking about as problems. We're listening to them as the things. So if you kind of keep in your mind, topics are going to be thingy kind of words. Nouny, yes, I'm making these words up. Thingy and nouny kinds of words. And so a word like, so naming it harassment is going to take somebody's side. So if the mediator starts saying things like, oh, so harassment is a thing to talk about today, then people are going, the person who's being talked about is going to say, no, I'm not harassing her. If she would answer my phone calls and answer my emails and maybe stop ignoring all my Facebook comments, then I wouldn't be, sending her so many messages, right? And so instead, this says, here the non-judgmental frame of this topic. And so in your mediator brain, you would call that communication. So I want to pause right here to say that you might, in a minute, when you hear how we name a topic, we name it through taking a word through what we call the topics grinder to say, does this word pass every point on this grinder? And if it does, then it might make a good topic word. Some people might say that the word communication doesn't pass the grinder very well. And so what I want to pause here to say is, in general, in regular everyday life, communication is this big general umbrella term. But in your mediator brain, it is not. In your mediator brain, the word communication is a very specific term that we use for when people are saying there's something about the way communication in general has been happening. So in this situation, when they're giving all of these different kinds of communication that they don't like the way it's happening, so we can call it communication. If this vent was only about, you call me too much. I mean, you're calling me 17 times a day. I see your missed calls. Like, don't you realize that I'm busy? I'm going to get around to calling you back when I can. Stop calling me so much. Then we would call that topic phone calls. If they were venting, oh my goodness, the way you send too many emails, you send me some stuff that's spam sometimes, or you send me all these inappropriate jokes through email, and sometimes your emails are just not clear, right? Then that would be email, right? So communication is when, like, in general, we're saying, I don't like the way communication is happening. But if somebody is saying, I don't like the way communication is happening around a particular thing, then the thing is the topic. So I'm going to give you all an example, and I'm going to ask you, what is the thing that people are talking about? And so you can type your answers in the chat. So somebody is saying, oh my goodness, you're always yelling at me about the dog. Every time I come home, as soon as I come through the door, you're yelling at me that I didn't walk the dog, and when am I going to walk the dog? And the other person says, well, yeah, I'm yelling at you about that because you don't listen to me. And when you don't walk the dog, then the dog ends up peeing all over the place, and I'm the one who has to clean it up, right? So very good. You all got the answer correct. Dog is that topic. So even though while they were arguing about the dog, they said things like, you yell at me and you don't listen to me. So you heard things about breakdowns in communication, right? With yelling and not listening. But the thing that the yelling and not listening is happening around is dog. So again, Communication is when, in general, not about a particular thing, but in general, you lie every time you talk about stuff. That's communication. You're always running around telling my business no matter what I tell you. That would be communication, right? That's communication in general. But when it's communication about a particular thing, then the thing is the topic. So, moving on to the topic is grinder. So when you're listening to people talk and you're trying to hear, well, what things are they saying they either have conflict about, or what are the things they're saying that they might want to make plans about? And when people are talking and you're thinking, oh, I think this word is a topic, you want to take that word and run it through this grinder. And so I'm going to make this screen a little bit larger so you can see the grinder a little bit better on this handout if you're looking at it through the video. But I also, keep in mind in the chat, I also put the inclusive listening handout in there. And so we're on page 2 of that handout if you've clicked on it there and you're looking at it on your device. This one, the grinder, that's a really good question. What will be the topic in the one that the person was talking about? Let's look at the topic's grinder, and then I'll let the group answer what would the topic be in that vent that we read earlier. So the grinder is, the word should be something someone talked about having conflict around this thing, right? So if you think something is a topic, it should not be something that you think they should make a plan about. It should not be something that you think they should resolve. You should have heard the person talking about this thing, right? That's the first thing that would make it a topic. Also, the word should be specific or concrete, right? And so being specific or concrete means it's either something we can touch, right? So concrete, a dog is something we can touch. A fence is something we can touch. Specific, it might not be something we can touch, but it's specifically what we call that thing. So for example, communication is specifically what we call when we don't like the way talking has been happening, right? Or housework, for example, when people are having conflict around, you know, the dishes and the vacuuming and the laundry and all of the things that goes into a house, we are going, that word is, the specific word for that is housework or housekeeping. The word also should not blame anybody. So this is why the word harassment would not pass the grinder, right? And would not be a good topic, because harassment would blame somebody, right? So words that sound like somebody did something wrong, those words should not be topics. So words like harassment, vandalism, a tricky one that people often get caught in is noise. So noise is the word that we use when there's a sound we don't like. So the word noise is going to blame somebody, right? And also the word noise is not specific. So another way that I try to decide, like, is a word specific or not, I ask myself, if somebody walked in this room and said this word, and that's all they said, and then they turned around and walked out, would I know what thing they're talking about? So for instance, if somebody walks in the room and they just said noise, and then they turned and walked out, would I know what thing they're referring to? The answer is no, so noise would not make a good topic, right? The word should also not take anyone's side. So words that are this is why values, which we're going to talk about in a minute, values are never going to be a good topic, right? So cleanliness, if you say cleanliness is a topic, that's probably not going to be, that's not going to be a good topic, because it's probably take somebody's side. Whoever was saying the house needs to be cleaned and you say cleanliness is a topic, you've now taken the side of the person who said the house needs to be cleaned versus the person who's saying the house needs to look lived in, for example, right? So values are never topics. I want to make that very clear. But also a pitfall you want to stay out of for naming a topic that takes someone's side is make sure you never are naming somebody's solution as a topic. So for example, if mom and dad are having a conversation about their son, Kevin, and let's say Kevin is 10 years old and they're having a conversation about things Kevin can do. And mom says, well, Kevin is a boy and boys need to learn how to be assertive. So Kevin should play football. And dad goes, well, wait a minute now. Boys also need to know how to be graceful and focused. And ballet would help him be graceful and focused, right? So write in the chat, if the mediator said, so football is the topic, whose side did the mediator just now take? Mom, very good, right? Everybody's typing in mom. If the mediator says, oh, ballet is the topic, whose side did the mediator now take? Dad, very good. You all are slick and swift with it today. Very good, right? Okay, so now you have to ask your mediator brain, right? So what's happening here is ballet is dad's suggestion about whatever the topic actually is. And football is mom's suggestion about whatever the topic actually is. So now you have to ask your mediator brain, what do you call things Kevin can do? Activities. Very good, very good. So everyone that's typing in activities, good job, it's activities, right? So I see somebody said after school activities. And one thing we want to make sure we do is not add in things that the participants didn't talk about. So you didn't, in the examples that I just gave, we didn't hear them talk about whether it was after school or summertime or during spring break activities, right? We don't know when it is. We just know it's things Johnny can do. So we just want to, kind of leave the qualifiers as much as possible off of the topics and just name the thing. So this thing would be activities. Very good. Expectations for Kevin. So let's run, somebody said is expectations for Kevin. Could that be a topic? So when you run expectations through the grinder, if somebody walked in a room and said expectations and then turned around and walked out of the room, would you know what thing they're talking about? Yes or no? No, right? So people are typing in no, you would not know, right? So that means expectations would not be specific. So it's not going to pass the grinder at the word should be, it's too vague. Very good, Darby, right? Expectations would be too vague. Whereas activities is specifically, is specifically what we call that thing. So I see Kevin, let me jump into this chat real quick. So somebody's asking the question, isn't it true that activities as well would a person know if they walked in? So if somebody walked in the room and said the word activities, I would not know specifically what activity they're talking about. But if you ask me what is activities, I do know what that thing is, right? So activities passes the grinder because it is specifically the term we use for things people do, right? That's what we call things people do, the word activities. And so activities would be what you would call it instead of calling it football or ballet, which would take either mom or dad's side because those are their solutions to what activities Kevin could do. Right? And so one thing that's really important about naming topics in this way also is because when it comes time for them to problem solve activities, right? You've now listened to what their values were around that word. So you've heard mom say that assertiveness is important to her, and you've heard dad say that focus and gracefulness are important to him. So you can then be asking, so around activities, what ideas might get you the focus and gracefulness and assertiveness that you're looking for Kevin to have. And then they could come up with all kinds of ideas that are not just football and ballet, right? That would also get them those things. The last thing on the topics grinder is the word that you come up with should not set up a yes, someone should, or no, someone shouldn't kinds of dynamic. And so this is also why topics are never verbs. So cleaning the house sets up a yes, someone should, or no, someone should. Cooking sets up a yes, somebody should cook, or no, somebody shouldn't cook, right? So instead of cleaning the house, we call it housework. That's specifically the term for that thing. Instead of calling it cooking, we're listening for, are they talking about meals in general all day? Then we're going to call it meals. If they're talking about a specific thing, then we're going to pick that thing. Are they talking about breakfast? Are they talking about lunch? Are they talking about dinner? Right? And so, so that's that. So that's why it's not ever going to be verbs. So there are examples here of what topics could be. Words like parking, housekeeping, communication, trash, the alley, clothing, schedule, dog. So I saw people were talking earlier about what the topic would be in the event for the person who was saying, you know, she's trying to get all the attention from the men. So if you said clothing was the topic there, ding, 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 you are correct. Clothing would be that topic, right? Very good. Okay, so before I move on to values, does anybody have any questions about topics? That you can either type them in or you can unmute yourself to ask a question. All right, I don't see or hear any questions coming in, so I'm gonna move on to the part of the handout that says what's important or value. So this is the third thing we're listening for. So we're listening for feelings, we're listening for topics, we're also listening for values. So values are usually phrased as one or two key positive words, and they are about the needs, the goals, and the values that participants are expressing. So listening for values helps you hear what's important to the person in the midst of blame language, insults, name calling, etc. So this was like one of my favorite things about values, because you can, out of the insults people are making, you hear what is actually important to them. So let's test this theory out. I'm going to slide back to the positional statements on page 1 of the handout, and I'm going to ask you to type into the chat, what values do you hear this person expressing? So the person says, she's a slob, her crap is all over the place. If I'm calling you a slob, what is important to me? What are my values? Good, very good. People are typing in cleanliness, neatness, organization. Very good, good. Those will be values you will put in your notes for this person. The next person goes, he's a liar, right? If I'm calling you a liar, what's important to me? What's the value? Good, honesty, truthfulness. People are typing in, very good. Good, right? So this is how you can hear, out of insults very often that people are making, you can hear what is actually important to them. So now back to page 2 of the handout under the value section. The second bullet says you want to be sure to listen for values that focus on what the participant is saying is important to them, not focusing on their dislike of others or their position. So we're not putting in our notes, she thinks he's a liar, right? When she says he's a liar, we're not going to put she thinks he's a liar in our notes. We're going to put she's looking for honesty in our notes, right? So honesty is the word we're going to put in our notes, right? Truth is the word. Very good, Darby. Thank you for that. Truth is important to her, right? And another, thinking back to brain science, one reason we're listening in this way, instead of putting in our notes everything each person thinks is wrong with the other person, if we were listening in that way, we are going to keep them, we're going to nurture their positional narratives. We're going to nurture their fight, flight, or freeze mode when we have in our notes all their position about what they think is wrong with the other person. So keeping in mind that in a fight, flight, or freeze place in our brain, Your brain is not designed for you to do creative problem solving while you're in fight, flight, or freeze mode. That is a survival mode. What can I just do right now to survive? Am I going to fight? Am I going to run? Or am I going to just freeze right here and hope that the thing goes away, right? So that's not, let's think of all the possibilities about how I can get my needs met, right? And so when we're listening for values instead of position, values helps the person think about, okay, well, if cleanliness is important to me, what would cleanliness actually look like? How could I get the cleanliness that I'm looking for? If I want honesty, how can what would that honesty look like? How can I get the honesty that I'm looking for, right? And so that's a big reason why we're listening for values instead of focusing on the person's position. This third bullet says, often you can hear values clearly out of an insult a participant is making about somebody else. So the example here is, how come I'm the only one who has to do what I'm supposed to do? You're supposed to be their father. How about you make a decision? Take on the tough role, or do what you say you'll do, right? So it says, avoid focusing on what the speaker doesn't like about others. Like, so you wouldn't put in your notes, he isn't doing his job as a father, right? You would put in your notes what's important to the speaker. So this person is saying accountability is important to them. Very good. Responsibility, good. I see people typing responsibility in the chat, right? So that would be, and then the, how about you do what you say you'll do, right? Follow through is also in there as a value. This next bullet says that sometimes it can be challenging to think of the value words that actually capture the participant's needs while you're using words that sound positive. So the goal is to work on understanding the wants and goals that people are expressing in a way that is not loaded where possible. And so this example comes from an actual mediation that I did in the early 2000s. All right, thank you, Katie. Have a good one. And so this example says, because she slashed my tires, she needed to get what was coming to her. So since I went through having to miss work to get my car fixed, she should have to see what that feels like. So that's right, I put a brick through her windshield, right? So this tip is reminding us, yes, revenge and payback are values that this person expressed, right? Because she said she needed to get what was coming to her. So that's revenge and payback. And don't stop right there at those words. What else is the person expressing? And so the examples here are, this person is also expressing, very good, that fairness is important to them, that justice is important to them, that understanding is important to them. And so what actually happened in this mediation, which is what made me, it was a huge delta for me, right? Deltas are the things that we need to work on, or we could do differently next time. So in this mediation, one of my deltas was the case was referred from court. These two women had a fight with each other, and so there was the ex-girlfriend and the new girlfriend. So the new girlfriend comes outside one morning to go to work, and her tires are slashed. And this is the mediation that taught me, like, evidently, if you slash a certain number of tires, insurance will pay for it, and if you slash this number, it won't pay for it, or whatever. So I don't know what that was about, but anyway, she comes outside, her tires are slashed, right? And then so she's really upset. She calls her boss, and she's telling us that, like, you know, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't call my boss and say, you know, that, because there was a rumor going around the neighborhood. She ended up finding out that there was a rumor going around the neighborhood that the old girlfriend was going around bragging that she had slashed the new girlfriend's tires, right? And so now the new girlfriend was saying, well, okay, I can't call my boss and say, oh, my man's ex-girlfriend slashed my tires. Like, that's crazy. I don't want my boss looking at me like I'm crazy. So, like, you know, and she was now messing with my money all because my boyfriend wasn't returning her phone calls. And I don't think that's right. She should know what I had to go through. She went to work and everything was fine for her, right? And so she needed to get what was coming to her. So I was listening to her say that. But at first, before she said that, she kept saying, and she didn't. Okay, so I'm sorry, let me slow down. She comes outside, her tires are slashed. A few days later, the old girlfriend comes outside to her own car and there's a brick through her windshield. And so I know I do sound weird because I need to slow down and tell the story correctly. So tell the story correctly. New girlfriend comes outside to go to work. Her tires are slashed. A few days later, old girlfriend comes outside to her own car. Oh, the sound changed. Oh, you're saying I sound weird? All right, I don't know why that's happening. Let me see. It's better now? Okay, so I'll, it must be maybe the speaker. Okay. So yeah, I did. I moved the phone a little bit. Is this okay right now? Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. All right. So in the mediation, the old girlfriend was saying, I know you put that brick through my windshield. And the new girlfriend was going, I don't know what you're talking about. That I absolutely did not put a brick through your windshield, right? And so in the mediation, I'm listening to the story and I'm in my judgment was, okay, the new girlfriend is lying. She clearly put a brick through the old girlfriend's windshield. So the way they ended up in a fight that got referred to mediation is when the old girlfriend came outside and saw a brick through her windshield, because she knew that she slashed the girl's tires a few days before, she immediately went to the new girlfriend's house and said, I know you put a brick through my windshield. And the new girlfriend acted surprised and was like, what do you mean? A brick in your windshield? Well, who else's boyfriends are you sleeping with? Maybe it was one of those people who put a brick through your windshield. And so that was like a big part of the argument at the mediation table, is the new girlfriend was saying, I didn't put a brick through her windshield. I'm a grown up. I don't do tit for tat, right? And so although I didn't believe her, I still had things in my notes like she felt unheard and misunderstood and mischaracterized. But in my head, I was like, she's lying. She definitely put that brick through the windshield. So when she finally got to a space in the mediation where she felt comfortable to tell us that she did put the brick in the girl's windshield, then she told this story about how it wasn't right that the old girlfriend was messing with her money now by making her not be able to go to work, and she should see what that feels like, and she, all of that kind of stuff, and she needed to get what was coming to her. So I put revenge in my notes, and every time I reflected revenge out loud, she said, well, yeah, but not really just that. And then she would repeat the whole story all over again. And so I was really confused, like, why is she repeating this story when clearly she wanted revenge? And then my co-mediator jumped in with these other values and said, it also sounds like fairness is important to you, and you were looking for understanding about the experience you had when you came outside and couldn't go to work that day. And then she was like, yes, that's what I'm saying, right? And so that taught me, don't just listen to the escalated, conflicty parts of the conversation. So I kept hearing her say she needed to get what was coming to her. So I stopped at putting revenge and payback in my notes. So all of these parts where she was also saying it wasn't right, that was fairness. And she needed to know what it felt like. Only I knew what it felt like. That was, she was looking for understanding, right? So make sure that you aren't just putting the drama, conflicty words in your value notes. People are complex beings. They can want revenge and understanding. They can want payback and be looking for justice and fairness all at the same time, right? Okay, so that's values. And I am going to put the values cheat sheet in here as well, so that you can have that. That's not what I want. All right. So here I am, I'm coming in the chat. Values cheat sheet. Boom. So there's that for you, so you can have that cheat sheet. So any questions? So in a second, I'm going to put a practice sheet both in the chat, and I'm going to load it on the screen for people who are in the video, so that you can practice hearing, feelings, values, and topics. So I'm going to give people a few minutes to think about what the feelings, values, and topics are, and then I'm going to ask you all to put feelings in first, and then values, and then topics. We'll do them one at a time so that we're not all over the place, and we can keep track of the conversation. But first, are there any questions about about values, listening for values? The values, oh, sorry, I made a mistake in everyone. I'm sorry. Some kind of way I made a mistake and only sent that message privately to somebody. That's not what I meant to do. Here you go. Now sending it to everyone. Thank you for letting me know that. Okay, so the value cheat sheet is now in the chat. And if anybody doesn't have any questions about the about values, I'm now going to load onto the screen, and I'm gonna put some classwork in here. All right, this one should be good. Now that everybody's gonna be home all the time, we'll go with this neighbor dispute. Oh, I see somebody put a question in there. I'm gonna grab that question in a second. So in the chat right now, so on your screen, if you're looking at the video, the classwork is there for you to practice feelings, values, and topics. So I'm gonna give people a moment to look at that. And right now in the chat, it says classwork, and there's a link to that very same classwork. So take a minute to read that vent and come up with what feelings, values, and topics. Please don't say them. Please don't type them in the chat yet. I'm gonna ask for for us to talk about them one at a time. Feelings first, and then values, and then topics. So hold on to your answers for a minute while I give people a chance to do it. So a question here is, have you seen a values list organized like the feelings list, kind of similar values group? I have not seen that. I have not. And then Tracy is saying, remember that even though we call it a cheat sheet, we highly recommend that you have the feelings and values sheets with you at the mediation table. So absolutely right. So these are your tools So I know sometimes mediators are nervous about having, well, what if I have too many papers at the table? Won't people think that I don't look professional enough, or maybe I don't know what I'm doing? And the answer is no. People who use a lot of papers, when they are giving a service to others, the people receiving that service just assume, oh, you must need all of these papers. So for example, when you go to a lawyer and you see a bunch of papers on their desk, you don't think, oh, this lawyer must not know what she's doing. She has too many papers, right? No. So if you don't act nervous about having your mediation manual, your notepad, your feeling sheet, your value sheet, your topics chart, your open-ended questions, handout, like whatever tools you need, you can have as much as you need on the table. And people just assume this is what you need to do your job as a mediator. So I'm going to read the vent out loud too. It dawned on me that there's some people on the phone. So it says that dog barks all night long. It's ridiculous and quite rude if you ask me. First of all, you shouldn't own a dog unless you know how to keep him quiet throughout the wee hours of the night. How are your neighbors supposed to sleep? But they are just inconsiderate of other people's feelings in general. They play music so loud, you'd think we live next to a nightclub. What the hell is that all about? I don't understand how they think it's okay to turn that noise up full blast. And even if they like for their yard to be a mess, I care about my property value. This is a beautiful neighborhood and I love living here and I want to keep it that way. But when these fools next door can't even figure out how to mow their friggin' lawn, it just sucks looking out of my window. All right, so that's the vent. And I'm giving people time to look at the screen if you're looking at your video, or if you're listening on the phone, take the vent that I just said. And if you're in the chat, you can see the document for you to open. So I'll give you a minute to grab what feelings, values, and topics you think you hear. I wish I had some. This is when we need like background music for people to listen to. Or maybe not. Maybe music will make it hard for you to think. Maybe I should shut up so you can think. So again, for people on the phone, the vent says that dog barks all night long is ridiculous and quite rude if you ask me. First of all, you shouldn't own a dog unless you know how to keep him quiet throughout the wee hours of the night. How are your neighbors supposed to sleep? But they are just inconsiderate of other people's feelings in general. They play music so loud, you think we live next to a nightclub. Yes, I am laughing because I am hilarious. What the hell is that all about? I don't understand how they think it's okay to turn that noise up full blast. And even if they like for their yard to be a mess, I care about my property value. This is a beautiful neighborhood and I love living here and I want to keep it that way. But when these fools next door can't even figure out how to mow their friggin' lawn, it just sucks looking out my window. Okay, so let's start at feelings. So if you, what feelings do you think you hear? Imposed upon, annoyed, angry, confused, proud, very good. Exasperated, nice. Angry, nice. Disgusted, nice. Outraged, irritated, proud. Annoyed, inconvenienced, exasperated, nice. Afraid, that's a good one, right? They're worried about how their property value is going to be impacted. Good. Aggravated. Curious. Todd, can you say more about curious? Annoyed, disgusted, confused, fed up, concerned, love for their home, nice. So you heard curious, that they expressed curious. What's something that they say that you think is a clean translation to curious? Okay, so she says she doesn't understand was the answer that he gave. So let me go back and read that part. So what the person said was, I don't understand how they think it's okay to turn that noise up full blast. So they did say they didn't understand, and I think this more would be confused and curious, because they're not like really, well, they did say, what the hell is that all about? So maybe they're curious. Maybe. I'll take it. Outraged, disrespected, proud, content, nice. They're content with the way things are in the neighborhood right now. That's a good one. Want or desire is not a feeling, Marissa. Want and desire are not feeling words, and so you want to ask your mediator brain, what are the feelings the person is expressing? The wants and desires are going to be values, so we're going to name those wants and desires as values in a minute. All right, good. So that's very good for the feelings. Now, what are the values? All right, so we got, thank you, Tracy. Pride in the community, respect, appearances, property value, consideration, neighborhood, neatness, order, politeness, consideration, organization, peace and quiet. Yes, I do want to address that. So Michelle said, okay, so these are very good values you're putting in there. Consideration, beauty, property, neighborliness, respect, property value, sleep, very good. I didn't thank you for catching that. So somebody said that they heard tired as a feeling. So I want everybody to pause for a second and ask yourself, did the person express that they feel tired? And if so, what did they say that is a clean translation to tired? Yes, disappointed. Somebody's asking, could disappointed be a feeling used around looking out the window, or is that more of a judgment? No, disappointed, right? It sucks looking out of my window. Disappointment is a great word. Disappointed is a great feeling word. That's good. All right, so I don't see anyone giving any answers for tired, so because I'm gonna, oh wait, here it comes. They said, how are your neighbors supposed to sleep? Right, the value there is consideration. Okay, so how are your neighbors supposed to sleep? That does mean that sleep is important to them as a value, and even consideration is a value. But that does not tell us that this person is saying they feel tired. So they haven't actually talked about how much sleep they're getting, or if they're getting enough sleep, or if they're tired when they wake up in the morning. They haven't talked about that at all. So if you heard this event and you thought tired was a feeling, this is what we call your movie play. So this is one of the dilemmas of how the brain naturally works. Is that it automatically starts to play movies while people are talking to you. So if I say to you right now, a little boy was walking down the street on a bright sunny day. Right now in your brain, you see that picture playing in your head. You see a little boy walking down the street on a bright sunny day. Oh, did I say bouncing the ball? That's what I meant to say. There was a little boy walking down the street, bouncing the ball on a bright sunny day. So you see that right now in your mind. That I did say, but there are things that I did not say that your brain has filled in, and that's called your movie. So for example, I didn't say what ethnicity the boy is or about how old the boy is. You may see an ethnicity and an age for the boy. I didn't say what kind of clothes he had on. Unless you have a naked boy walking down the street in your head, you've probably dressed him in some kind of clues. I said he was walking down the street. Your brain probably filled in what kind of street he was walking down. I said he was bouncing a ball. You probably filled in what kind of ball he was bouncing, right? And so that's what happens. So the same thing happened when the person said, how are your neighbors supposed to get any sleep? Your brain filled in more story, where you see this person waking up tired in the morning and they haven't expressed that they were tired. So we want to be careful about putting in feelings that the person hasn't expressed. Very good for values. Let's now move on to topics. So what topics do you think this person has talked about? Lawn is good. So when you run lawn through the grinder, so the things we hear are the people are putting in lawn, noise, dog, property value, music, lawn care, somebody said. Okay, so let's go through the answers that people are giving and run them through the grinder. So let me ask the group, the word lawn, do you think that lawn, so I'm going to give you, the grinder is, someone said they had conflict about this thing. Does lawn pass that? Did this person say they had conflict about lawn? Type in yes or no. Yes, so people are saying yes, very good. The word lawn, is it specific or concrete? Yes or no? Yes, very good. The next point on the grinder, the word lawn, does the word lawn blame anybody or take a side? Yes or no? Right, so the word lawn by itself does not take a side. So very good, people who said no. And so somebody is saying possibly. So if you made the words mowing the lawn a topic, then that would take a side and blame somebody. But the word, or if you put neat lawn, that would take a side. If you put messy lawn, that would take a side, right? But just the word lawn by itself does not take anybody's side. So it passes the grinder right there. And so that means the word lawn is not setting up a yes, you should lawn or no, you shouldn't lawn, right? So, so lawn passes the grinder, very good. So lawn is a topic here. We also heard that noise. People said noise was a topic. Let me pause before I move on to noise. Somebody is saying only one side mentioned lawn though. John, you've only heard one side vet. So your brain is right now trying to fill in what the other person would say, and the other person is not here. You're only seeing the vent for one person. So when you're at the mediation table, you're listening to each person and you're putting in each person's notes what that person is saying. So this person is saying they don't like what's been going on with the lawn, and so you would write the word lawn as one of the topics in this person's notes. Okay, so the word noise, do you think that, good, no problem, John. Do you think that noise passes the grinder? So type in what you think about noise. Very good. So somebody said music is not positional, noise is. Very good. Somebody is saying no, noise is not a topic, it blames. Very good. So wherever a word fails the grinder, so the word noise, it blames, but it also fails at being, is not specific or concrete. We don't know what thing they're talking about when they say noise, right? And so you would ask your mediator brain, if this word fails at blaming someone, then what were the things that people were talking about? And how can I name those things in a way that would not blame somebody? And so, or what specific, if noise is not concrete enough, what specific things were people talking about that they were calling noise? And so what would those answers be? Very good. Music and dog. Good. So sound, somebody is saying sound. Sound is still too broad in general. And so dog and music are those things. So I see some people saying dog barking or barking itself. So again, remember that verbs are not going to be topics, right? Because a verb like barking is going to fail at yes or no, right? So yes, the dog should be barking, or no, the dog shouldn't be barking, right? So we're naming the thing, not what the thing is doing. So dog and music would be those things that we call noise. So yes, the topics here are dog, music, lawn. Oh, I faded again in my back. Am I not back yet? Not yet. All right, let me go. I think when I'm in the chat too long, my phone doesn't like it. Still funky. I don't know what is happening. It should be just fine. It's good now? Okay, yeah. So I think this must just be something weird that happens with my phone. So I apologize. Technology is awesome right up until the moment it starts to screw you. So this should be fun. Figuring this out for all of the trainings. Okay. Okay, so what were we saying? So let me scroll back up. All right, so not barking. Lawn, music, and dog. If you also named yard, right, absolutely, that's very good. Tracy said, y'all can back us up when we ask Lord for money for real microphones. Very good, that's so true. If you also named yard as a topic, then that's great as well. Because this person did talk about the yard in general. They said the yard is a mess, right? So if you also name, so some people might have chunked, when you think about chunking topics, they may have chunked yard and lawn into yard. So if you called it yard, or if you named both yard and lawn as topics, that's great too. Yeah. So that was our practice. Very good, everybody. Does anybody have any things in their notes as topics and you don't understand why this word is not a topic? Or any questions you have about feelings, values, or topics so far? Thank you very much. Somebody says, Erica, you're awesome. And he spelled my name right. That is so amazing.
Erica,
Yes.
the way we read the events is so much easier than when you're doing a real live mediation. So
Yeah.
I get stuck with identifying values. I think I can do the topics and the feelings, but when they're venting and I'm trying to hear the values in the mediation, that's when I get like a blank column for a while. Do you have any tips for that?
Can you say more about what makes you feel stuck? Like when you're hearing people vent live, what about hearing values? What happens in your brain? Like what's making you feel stuck around values, do you think?
Information overload, because they're talking a lot and I'm trying to jot down the feelings and value. I mean, the
Right.
feelings and the topics and the values, and I may catch the feelings and the topics, but the values is what I struggle with. And I don't know why I'm only picking up the feelings and the topics.
Okay, so my tips, and have compassion for yourself around And remember that you have a co-mediator across the table who's also listening for feelings, values, and topics. So there absolutely is a lot of overload that happens when people are speaking live. And you're not going to be able to catch every single thing when people are saying it. So have some compassion for yourself. Remember that if you get too irritated or start feeling overwhelmed yourself, then your mediator brain now goes into fight, flight, or freeze mode, and it makes it harder for you to even hear what people are saying. And so try not to start panicking or letting that overwhelmed feeling. When you start to feel it, just go, okay, right, it's natural that I'm only going to catch whatever I catch, right? And my co-mediator is over there listening too, and they're going to catch some stuff. So there's that. Also, remember that you can be asking questions about things people said. So a lot of times values are heard in the insults or things that people are saying. So if you heard the person go, like, oh my, she's just lying all the time, blah, 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 right? And so you miss a lot of what they're saying, even if you can't think of, well, what's the value out of lie? Let's say in that moment, you can't, for the life of you, think that, oh, honesty is the value out of she's a liar, right? Then you can ask an open-ended question. When you say she's a liar, what do you mean by that, right? Because then they're going to talk, and then it'll help you have some time to go, oh, that's truthfulness and honesty, and, and that kind of thing. And then my third tip is to practice listening away from the mediation table, because then there's no pressure to get it right. So especially in this time where we're, in the house anyway, watch YouTube videos, watch, all kind of trash TV, watch people who are having conflict with each other, arguing about things, kinds of videos. And while you're listening to it, take notes about feelings, values, and topics that you're hearing people say. So like give yourself practice space. So, and especially listen to things that you would normally judge or laugh at or find outrageous or ridiculous, things like that, and practice.
This is Tracy. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the only thing I would add to that, Darlene, is be cautious about, like, when you're doing the homework, you're kind of able to listen like a stenographer, and you're able to go through these things line by line and pull out the feelings, values, and topics. And of course, you're not able to do that at the mediation table, except for that when they don't feel heard, participants will repeat themselves. And so what I recommend people is think about your listening listen like waves coming over you. Okay, like your visual is, I went to the ocean and waves of water washed up upon me. You don't when waves of water wash upon you, you don't think I got to catch every drop of water that hits me. No, some of it sticks to you and some of it doesn't, right? And you're just reflecting the stuff that stuck to you, right? And what's important to the participants, they will say again if they need you to reflect that as well. Okay. So don't try to do like we do in the mediation with the homework and capture every single word. You want to listen and just let what sticks to you, and trust your co-mediator, as Eric said, and reflect what you did here, and not be obsessed about what I missed.
Come on, Katie. You need to get out.
Did you just leave me to do the training? What happened?
That's all right. I'm beating animals.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I think folks are leaving.
All right. My animals were having conflict. Before you all leave, I want to please put this. I'm gonna put the Bye. Have a good day, Jerry. I'm putting, if you would like confirmation that you were actually here. What did I just do? I'm going to put this document in here for you to also let us know that you were here, and give us any feedback I'm going to say what this is. So this is just a document. So please just click on there and put in your responses. And this helps us to track how many people we're still able to do training for, and to get feedback about these trainings as well. This is very new for us to be doing so much training online. So we love to hear your pluses and deltas about how it went for you and what things we could do differently, or what things we're doing well with it. And when you fill out the form, I'll send an email confirming that you completed this in-service. And so it'll add for your center as you're tracking your volunteer hours, and for the Maryland Program for Mediator Excellence in Maryland, as you're tracking, what you're doing to keep your skills sharp, you'll have confirmation about that you took this in-service. So if you are not in the chat and you're on the phone, you can email me at mediationdiva@gmail.com. Again, that's mediationdiva@gmail.com. If you send me an email, I will then send you the Google document, and you can fill out the dot to get confirmation that you were here and to give us feedback. So again, for people on the video, go and chat and click on where it says confirm that you were here. Click on that document and please fill it out. If you're on the phone, email me at mediationdiva@gmail.com.
And can I ask one clarifying question?
Yeah, sure.
Tracy, that advice was really helpful about letting things come in waves. And I was wondering if you could clarify, I don't know if she knows that I'm talking to her. Oh, there you are. Okay, good. I was just wondering if, are you, just to make sure I heard what you're saying correctly, are you saying to, like, when somebody's spewing a lot of information at you, you reflect back like the main things that you hear, and then wait to see how it sits, and then what they repeat, like you get it the next time, kind of? Is that?
Sort of. So it's not so much about the only thing I'm going to tweak is your language about the main things that you hear. So as much as they'll let me, I'm going to reflect as much as I can of what I heard. And then, and definitely I'm making judgment calls on things I would prioritize. And I don't expect myself to catch everything. And I trust my co-mediator to help me capture what's important to them and what they're feeling about the topics that they have to make decisions about. And I'm also trusting the participants that if we miss something, to give us another chance to understand.
Okay, got it. That's helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yay. So we were scheduled to end at 3. Does anybody else have any questions they want to ask before we log off?
Anybody have stuff that they've had, any, things that participants said that they were like, I don't know what the reflection for that is?
I feel like it's less for me around like struggling to reflect in terms of I don't know how to reflect the exact words, as much as sometimes there are participants who just will have a lot to say. So it's a matter of like learning when to insert yourself versus let the dialogue go, especially when it becomes a monologue. That's been something that I've struggled with a little.
Yeah, I think a good piece of that is about experience, and this is why I really encourage mediators to make sure you're getting to the table, particularly your first 2 years of mediating as much as possible. I know there's a temptation for a lot of mediators to want to do more observations, that first year rather than mediations. But it's crucial that you get to the table because that's going to develop and grow your capacity for being able to get in. And I'm going to say this, and I want to say this cautiously. I balance that with prioritizing the talk. So if they're saying a lot of things, a lot of times when I see mediators saying participants talking a lot, it's because they haven't been speaking before this mediation. And so I'm prioritizing their being able to speak, and I'm using that time to take full notes. So when I do get a chance to get in, I'll have a really full reflection to get, but I'm prioritizing them being able to speak.
That's good advice.
I have one to put out there. I do a lot of parenting plan cases. And on the last case that I had, we had gone several sessions with the couple. And I swear, we felt like we were done. We were so proud. They were finally talking and we were ready to write up that agreement. And then out of nowhere, like literally right before we were getting ready to start to write up the agreement, the dad goes and puts something on the table to the fact that the mom had a pending court case, knew she had a pending court case, and said absolutely nothing about it. It was not included in the agreement or anything like that. So it was like a whole new situation at that point. And I feel like myself and Nicole kind of got stuck because it took us so long to get to that point to where they're talking and we could actually come up with an agreement, and then to have that curveball thrown in right there at the end, we really had a time trying to get our footing back as to how to reflect that and then where that would fit in as far as like unpacking it and trying to include it in that agreement.
Candace, can you say some of the stuff he said?
Specifically when he let us know about what he's talking about. He said, so I'm confused. I need help to understand why we're doing all this. And so the mother was like, what do you mean why we're doing all this? He's like, you had us come here. We've met several times. We finally come to points of agreement, and yet and still you've never said anything about this. And we're like, well, about what? And at that point, the baby mother was like, about what? So we didn't know what he was talking about. And so he finally said, I just got the notice in the mail about the court case. Not only are you planning on going into court to the date that he knew about and still telling the judge that he should have received full custody, but you also have some other pending charge out there against him that he didn't even know about. So he's like, why do you have us in here trying to come up with this parenting plan around this one court case and issue, and you have this whole other case out here on me and we know nothing about it?
So can you say what you did reflect?
Oh my gosh.
or not or not.
Maybe so, come to the fact of it sounds like you still have some questions around, the court case at hand, but let me check in with my code real quick because I wanted to make sure I hadn't missed nothing, because we had no clue what the man was talking about. She looking at me like I'm just as lost as you. So let me check in. I'm gonna follow you.
Yeah. So when I hear something like that, and when people are particularly like outraged right there, I definitely want to lead with feeling reflections. Sounds like you feel betrayed and undermined.
Okay.
And having the time that you've spent in mediation honored is something that's important to you.
Gotcha.
And also feeling confused about like how what's happening in court impacts the decisions that you've made in mediation. Is that right?
Right.
And just kind of start there and put it to them. Can you talk about, I would give it back to them because what they're working on through the court can impact what's happening in mediation, and what you're doing in mediation can impact what's happening in court as well. So I will ask them, can you talk about how what's happening in court is impacting the decisions that you want to make in mediation?
Okay.
Would you add anything, Erica?
Nope, that was it. That was good.
And the only other last part to that is, so they got into an argument, the mom wound up walking out. And so dad's thing was because we had come so far and was almost at an agreement about the first half, but we hadn't written anything, you know, he had no agreement now to go back into court with. There was nothing he could present to the judge that shows that he actually went to mediation and had some sort of success with it. I don't know what happens at the end once we send them back. And we haven't come to an agreement, or in that specific case, you know, we kind of got someone, but then that happened and everybody walked away from the table. So he had nothing to take back into court.
What do I want to say about that? A few things I want to say about that. So depending on which county they're in, a lot of times the judge, the magistrate will kick them back to mediation. And I would recommend that you, as mediators, that we ask the folks who are doing intake to check with them after, you know, after a couple of days and see if they want to come back to mediation to go through some of those things.
Okay.
And I'll put my email address and my email address and my phone number on there, and we can, if you want to talk some more offline about it, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, thanks.
My pleasure.
Are you on the phone? I think she's on the phone. Are you on the phone?
Who
You
me?
just don't have video.
No, I'm on the video thing. I just don't have my camera when I look crazy. See?
Oh, everybody's trying to be cute. I just put on earrings for y'all.
I look crazy.
Gonna be cute, but it's not come on camera. I see what y'all do. Okay.
That's what it is.
Anybody else have any questions?
Hi, Erica. It's Moab. How are you?
Hi.
I had a quick question. This is more around like grounding techniques. I know somebody earlier was asking about like when somebody's venting for a while and getting overwhelmed. So I think I'm always still looking for more grounding techniques, whether that's like keeping myself present because I'm getting like impatient with how long it could be and like being able to stay focused, or like maybe a trigger comes up for me, or it's a sensitive topic or whatever. So yeah, I'm just looking to pick up more of those techniques.
Yeah, in real life, my main technique at the table is I do a lot of deep breathing. Tracy might have better answers for this because she mediates way more than I do because she actually likes mediating. I'm not really, I love training. I'm not really a fan of mediating because 2 hours is a long time for me not to give my opinion. Oh, I'm sorry. I see that question that you're putting in the chat about inclusive and can we use it everywhere? The answer is yes. You can use these skills no matter what model you're using. We even teach inclusive listening to transformative mediators and facilitative. I'm sorry, Ma'ab. I'm sorry that I'm shifting. So yes, it's called inclusive listening, and it's a listening skill that mediators in any model can use, and mediators from different models have learned this skill and use it in their mediation processes. Yeah, so I do a lot of deep breathing because I can get overwhelmed too, or somebody says something that I realize I have a serious judgment about.
Yep.
Or triggered like, what she just now say, you know, whatever.
Right.
So I do deep breathing, but I also really pay attention to when I notice that I'm thinking about something that has to do more with me than it has to do with them.
Right.
So like with practice and experience, you start to notice that if somebody says something, and you start focusing on what you think, how you feel, all of that about what they said, even if you do that for 3 seconds, you zoned out for that 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So you zone back in, you notice that like people are in the middle of saying something and you're like, I don't know what else they just now said right before this word, right?
Right.
And so the more that happens to you, the more you'll stop doing it. You know, like,
Right. That's true.
Like, the more I'm in my head, it means the less I'm present in the actual conversation. And now it's messing up my notes, it's messing up my reflections. I don't know what questions to ask, and then you'll get more overwhelmed. So I really just practice, like, the second I notice that I'm off going, what are they talking about? Oh my God, that's crazy. Yeah. And then I'll be like, oh, that's not what they said. Let me come back to the tip. And so I just like snatch myself. And maybe snatch is not a good mindful way to do it. I gently bring myself
Right.
present to the table.
Yeah.
And just try not to beat up on yourself too much about it. Because again, all of that kind of stuff then takes the mediator into their own fight, flight, or freeze mode. And then you're able to talk about it. And then also too, I like to tell people that the only way really to get good at mediating is you have to let this work change you.
Right.
So you can't be away from the mediation table in most other areas of your life and judging people and all in your head about people and giving people advice, you know, and then suddenly show up at a mediation and think you're going to be able to magically stop doing that stuff. We get good at whatever we're practicing. So because we've practiced judging and giving opinions for so long, that's what makes this work a little bit challenging when we first learn how to listen in this new way. And so now we need to have compassion for ourselves and purposely do things that give us more practice with this new way of listening. And so in our regular everyday lives, so for instance, I use social media as a good way of doing this. The people, I follow a few people on purpose who I know post certain kind of things that automatically make me be like, shut up. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that I can notice, okay, I'm judging, and like practice doing something different in that moment. Either ask the person an open-ended question, or maybe not respond at all, but just check myself and notice myself, you know. And so, so doing that kind of stuff. So practicing not judging and being present in real life, like in your everyday life more often. But then again, also like doing practices with stuff that's more fun, like, you know, YouTube videos, Instagram events. I would love, like Cardi B, if you go to Cardi B's and just like listen to her vent about stuff and take feelings relevant topics. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, you would be so good at your next mediation.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, somebody said they're in Asheville. Yay! Asheville people, please still fill out that I'm in Asheville right now. We're taking mediation video. Oh, Tracy is, so Tracy, somebody in Asheville is asking a question about mediation via video.
Yeah, I'm typing right now. I guess I can't use words, right? I got used to typing. So I'm sending my phone number, and are you with Laura? Are you all in the same office? Let's see. Well, either way, you have my phone number. You can call me, and we can trade notes.
Okay, yes, I am. I didn't know that I figured it out. Yeah, so I'm over doing all the intake and everything and the volunteers, and so we're looking at this and trying to figure out what it's going to look like. And
right.
Use and, you know, making sure that we're doing things with our values and confidentiality and all that jazz. So I will definitely reach out to you.
Okay, and maybe we can do some role plays to kind of practice with the technology and practice sending out the forms and stuff, because I'm trying to use a DocuSign, and I'm using this as you can verify that we have problems with using the in computer mic, and so Laura needs to buy us a new mic, and I'll tell Laura the same thing.
Okay, all right, great. Yeah, I will definitely reach out to you to talk about that. We have a meeting tomorrow. We're gonna kind of brainstorm some ideas too. But
okay, all right.
Thank you.
Actually, there's another call that's happening tomorrow. I think it's at 1 o'clock. But if you email me, I'll send you the link so you can join that call too. And we're specifically talking about online media.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that would be great. I will do that. Thank you.
That's a really good, I've asked if this counts as, she just went through basic mediation training and she was asking if this counts as follow-up. And so it doesn't, but also if, we're gonna be on lockdown for a few months, we might do like a 5-hour follow-up online kind of training like this for mediators around the state who need their 5-hour follow-up. We might figure out a way to do that. So I'll have that on my list of things to pay attention to. The 5-hour follow-up is a one-time training that you do. Yeah. So you go through the basic mediation training, and then you do your apprenticeship where you're observing 2 mediations, and then you co-mediate 2 with the more experienced mediator, and then you come back for 5 hours with your training group in class, and it's like time to vent about the things you saw and heard, and oh my goodness, and ask questions about things you saw and heard, and then also get some refresher around the process itself. So and then that completes the entire 50 hours of basic mediation training. Tracy, do you see the question in the chat? Okay.
Which one?
No, it's a private one. Sarah sent to send her a message I'll send the message to you directly. So Sarah wants the link for tomorrow's online thing.
Yeah, if anybody who's interested, and if you could just email me, and I'll put my email address in there again.
Okay.
I can send it to you. I don't have the chat.
All right, so as soon as Tracy figures out how to put her stuff back in here again, if people don't have any more questions, we only got like 5 minutes left, so we can wrap up. Carter, what do you have? My puppy is in there on the couch chewing on something that I'm pretty sure I'm probably getting ready to be mad that oh, it's fine. It's just a little, oops, sorry, Kayla. It's just a little paintbrush. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Take care, guys.
Y'all have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.